Good morning, DZRJ, 8:10 a.m. The Voice of the Philippines proudly presents Piracy Watch with attorney Sarah Jane Sugitan, exploring the concepts of intellectual property rights and protection, teaching you how to protect what you create. And now, here's your host, Sarah Jane Sugitan.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome on the Piracy Watch right here on DZRJ 8:10 a.m. This morning, we're going to talk about the U.S. Trade Representative Special 301 report, which has come up with a quarterly report for the year 2011. As we all know, last year, at the end of last year, the Philippines has been placed in the ordinary watch list, which is the same status that our country has held since 2009. This report by the U.S. Trade Representative has, of course, multiple effects on our economy and our trade bilateral agreements in terms of tariffs and intellectual property rights protection. As you all know, last week we celebrated the 11th World Intellectual Property Day, meaning we, of course, celebrated the rights of artists, performers, broadcasters, inventors, businessmen who build up brands and logos over the years. And we at the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines have been registering this intellectual property for close to 12 years now, since the inception of the Intellectual Property Office through the IP Code in 1998. Now, for those of you who care to or need to register your trademarks and now your copyrights, please proceed to the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines. Right now, it's still at number 351 Hill Puyat Street in Makati. But soon, IPOPHIL will be moving to its new address in World Finance Plaza Building. That's in number 28 Upper McKinley Road in McKinley Hill Town Center, Fort Bonifacio, Taguig City. The IPOPHIL trunk line remains 238-6300. Again, IPOPHIL will be moving on to its new address in World Finance Plaza Building. That's on number 28 Upper McKinley Road in McKinley Hill Town Center, Fort Bonifacio, Taguig City. The operations will start on May 16 in Taguig. Right now, IPOPHIL is still in Makati. It's number 351 Hill Puyat Street in Makati. Okay, now, those who'd like to join in our conversation here on Piracy Watch, please call up the studio at 897-8374 or 895-4460. But right now, we're going to have a news report from Jojo Sikat. That's Jojo Sikat bringing you the brother of the late Sally Ordinario on the preliminary investigation in the DOJ. Right now, we have a follow-up report from June Sese. June, thank you very much, June Sese, for that follow-up report, appointing a new NCRPO chief for Region 3. Okay, we hope that, of course, the new NCRPO chief in Region 3 will, of course, continue the good works of the outgoing military chief and also maintain peace and order in Region 3. Lalo na po, we hear a lot of news. I'm from Bataan, and one of the murder hotspots, meaning there are a lot of murders committed in that province, and yet they remain unsolved. And hopefully the new chief of the NCRPO for Region 3 will, of course, address the peace and order situation, particularly in the province of Bataan. Yan. For today, we are still discussing piracy and the Philippines' position in the said U.S. Trade Representative's report stating that the Philippines is to remain in the ordinary watch list. The Philippines has been in this position for the past 2 years, 2009 and 2010. And for those of you who need to know more about the U.S. Trade Representative, what is it about? It is an annual report conducted by, of course, the United States on partner countries in trade and industry regarding their intellectual property rights issues. Yeah, there have been positive developments in 2009 regarding this watch list report, such that there are countries which have been removed from the watch list. An example of these are, the Czech Republic has been removed from the watch list, which the Philippines is still a member of, for effective border control, and a new criminal code raising the maximum penalties for intellectual property rights violations. When we say intellectual property rights violations, we are, of course, referring to piracy, not only of music, movies, books, but also of many consumer goods now, branded goods, luxury items, and even medicine, shampoo, conditioner, soaps, and other household items, which of course pose a danger to our day-to-day lives. And the U.S. has been monitoring these developments for 2010, and it has come up with a report for the first quarter of 2011. Now, the U.S. Trade Representative continually reviews 77 countries who are trading partners also of the United States, and placed 41 countries on the priority watch list. Among those 41 countries are the Philippines, the Czech Republic, and China. Of course, China is in that watch list. And the other categories for the U.S. Trade Representative's report is the watch list, ordinary watch list, and the Section 306 monitoring list. Now, more of the Philippines' efforts to remove itself from the piracy watch list when we return right here on DZRJ 810 AM.
We now return to Piracy Watch on DZRJ 810 AM, the voice of the Philippines. Here's your host, Sarah Jane Sugitan.
All right, welcome back again on the Piracy Watch. You're still with me, attorney Sarah Sugitan. For those of you who are online, please check out our Facebook. It's facebook.com/DZRJ 810 AM. Of course, for those of you who'd like to join in our conversation here on Piracy Watch, please call up the studio at 897-8374 or 895-4460. Again, as a public service announcement, the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines would like to inform all its registrants that it will commence operations at its new location starting May 16. The IPOPHIL's new address is the ground floor of World Finance Plaza building located at number 28 Upper McKinley Road, McKinley Hill Town Center, Fort Bonifacio, Taguig City. The IPOPHIL's trunk line remains the same at 238-6300. Again, that's 238-6300. Now, why would you need to call the IPOPHIL? Well, last week, the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines has started accepting works for copyright registration. The first works that it has issued a copyright certificate over are the paintings made by the late former President Corazon Aquino. Her paintings, some 50 of her works, were issued copyright registrations in a ceremony held last Friday in the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines. For those of you who have songs, books, theses, even PowerPoint presentations that you feel like you need to register, please do so. Call up the IPO at 238-6300 for more information. Yeah, and we're still on the U.S. Trade Representative's watch list. The Philippines is, at least. But just as a personal comment, it has the IPOPHIL, along with its fellow government agencies in the National Committee on IP Rights, have taken great strides for the country to be removed on this watch list. However, we remain on the watch list. So previously in 2008, we are in the priority watch list. What we have to remember is that the U.S. Trade Representative makes 3 categories. Of course, the red alert status is the priority watch list. The second tier is the watch list, and the third tier is the ordinary monitoring special 306 list. Ayan. In the priority watch list, we have number 1 is China, then followed by Russia, Algeria, Argentina, Canada, also in the priority watch list, Chile, India, Indonesia, Pakistan, Thailand, and Venezuela. The Philippines was previously a member of this priority watch list, meaning we have insufficient intellectual property rights protection and safeguards in place. But now we have been moved to the watch list. So It's a reverse promotion in some sense, meaning if you go up higher in the watch list, that's a demotion. But if you go down the list, that's a promotion. So among the concerns of the U.S. Trade Representative, of course, number one is the need to address widespread piracy and counterfeiting in terms of the multiple notorious markets for pirated wares. So we're very aware that Quiapo being one of them, Green Hills, 168, Makati Cinema Square, and even in ruins in Alabang is also notorious for piracy. And among the actions taken by the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines has been to establish an operations center this time last year to coordinate and spearhead the operations of various law enforcement agencies. So if you need immediate assistance and you want to report a place where pirated and counterfeit goods are sold, please call up the hotline at 752-4870. Also, the Office of the President has released budget support for 10 million pesos for the operational requirements of the National Committee on Intellectual Property Rights to include promotion, protection, and enforcement of the IPR, of intellectual property rights. Another concern, of course, of stakeholders is once you raid a pirated goods seller, you need a warehouse wherein to put the pirated goods, the counterfeit goods that have been seized. Remember, piracy no longer is limited to CDs or optical discs. We have pirated diapers, we have pirated computers, cell phones, household items, bags, and definitely that takes up space. So the IPOPHIL, including the National Committee on Intellectual Property Rights, has provided a free warehouse which can be used by rights holders while you're building up a case and you need a place to store your evidence. So this warehouse can be used during the pendency of the case, of the intellectual property rights violation cases. And this was undertaken to address the concern of rights holders on the cost of storage. Definitely, you have to pay for office space, if not warehouse space, to store these goods. And the NCIPR has provided this free of charge. Also, the IPOPHIL has secured deputization from the Optical Media Board, the Bureau of Customs, and currently it's working with the Philippine Ports Authority. As we all know, pirated goods make their way through our local markets, through the ports as entry and exit points. So the Philippine Ports Authority has included safeguards now and are undergoing training. In fact, they've undergone a nationwide training last week, Thursday and Friday, here in Makati through the IPOPHIL and the Optical Media Board, the DOJ, in terms of case build-up, evidence, presentation, and getting search and seizure warrants when it comes to enforcing the law in our ports. We also have institutional arrangements with the Bureau of Customs, which gives the IPOPHIL, upon request, mission orders to conduct visitorial and inspection powers on imported items in violation of the IP code. So for those of you who are planning to import pirated goods via balikbayan boxes and go through customs, beware. The customs officials have been more or less strict in terms of inspecting goods that are coming in and out of the country. Yan. So on notorious malls, the IPOPHIL has secured the cooperation of the Green Hills Shopping Center. So if you happen to pass by Green Hills and still see pirated goods, and if you are a brand owner concerned about the proliferation of pirated versions of your wares, please report this to the IPOPHIL through, again, their hotline at 752-4870. All right. So definitely many people have commented as well whether the seizures are just for show. But, for on the side of the Philippine government, we still have a lot of things to improve on, a lot of things to do other than the usual confiscation seizures and raids. There has also been strides in on the legislative front and also institutional partnerships, in as much as the IPO's main office is in Makati and soon to be in Taguig. We need the cooperation of the local government, meaning especially the mayors in the provinces, in terms of enforcing or at least withholding the necessary business permits when an operator of a stall selling pirated and counterfeit goods are doing business in your locality. So the IPOFIL is taking strides in working with the local government units rather, in this regard. Yeah. So other countries that have been removed from the watch list, and we countries which we are taking as examples because we hope to be removed from this U.S. Trade Representative Special 301 watch list, is Hungary. Hungary has been removed from the watch list in recognition of its significant improvements on enforcement. Hungary has taken proactive steps to address the growing threat of internet piracy. So internet piracy does occur, meaning there has been counterfeiting and trading of counterfeited goods over the internet. And we can see that on Facebook, Multiply, email, websites. I hope you will not, of course, buy pirated goods over the internet, and we strongly discourage anyone from doing so. Hungary, for its part, has taken proactive steps to address internet piracy, and its customs and police officials have developed their ability to effectively identify infringing products. Many brand owners have, in fact, admitted that now it is very hard to distinguish the fake from the original, meaning there may have been gray market parallel imports in terms of counterfeiting and piracy. Okay, we are going to pause for a short break. Meanwhile, here's the Voice of America here on DZRJ 810 AM.
Now return to Piracy Watch on DZRJ 810 AM, the voice of the Philippines. Here's your host, Sarah Jane Sugitan.
Welcome back, everyone, on the Piracy Watch. You're still with me, Attorney Sarah Sugitan, bringing you the latest updates on the U.S. Trade Representative's releases on the Philippine performance for 2010 and the first quarter of 2011. But before that, I'd like to greet a happy birthday to the Director General of the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines, Attorney Ricardo R. Blancaflor. Happy birthday, sir. And we hope that you can do more and will continue to do more for the intellectual property rights owners of the country. All of you who have to do business with the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines, please be informed that the IPOFIL will commence operations at its new location starting May 16, 2011. The IPOFIL's new address is the ground floor of the World Finance Plaza building on number 28 Upper McKinley Road, McKinley Hill, Town Center in Fort Bonifacio, Taguig City. The IPOFIL's trunk line remains the same. It's 238-6300. Again, that's 238-6300. So if you have to follow up your trademark application, you have to file for copyright registration or even a patent, please continue to do so here in Makati. But starting May 16, transact business with the IPO at its headquarters in Taguig City. I believe this location is right across the Piazza Mall. So that's a landmark for you in terms of, for those of you who will have to go there for the first time and need some guidance. Again, IPOFIL will be at the World Finance Plaza building across the Piazza Mall, number 28 Upper McKinley Road, McKinley Hill, Town Center, Fort Bonifacio, Taguig City. We are reviewing the Philippines' performance for the first quarter of 2011 in terms of intellectual property rights protection and theft. Intellectual property theft in overseas markets is considered, of course, by the United States as an export killer for American businesses and a job killer for American workers at home. USTR Special 301 report is important because it serves as the foundation for a year-round process used to secure meaningful reforms that bolsters American exports and supports American jobs in IPR intensive industries. Based on personal knowledge, I believe the United States, 40% of the US economy rely on intellectual property, and we mean movies that are exported overseas. We're referring to books, we're referring to music, we're referring to brands and patents, innovation, gadgets, iPad, what have you. So the US is definitely aggressive in protecting intellectual property rights overseas because it has, as it has said, it is an export killer. Piracy is an export killer and a job killer. So same for our Filipino inventors or Filipino brand owners and artists who have been victims of intellectual property theft or piracy or counterfeiting. Business is lost, revenue is lost, and creativity is discouraged due to rampant piracy. As we were saying earlier, the Philippines has been in the Piracy Watch list before, but now it is now in the watch list. So it has been, I should consider it a promotion. From priority, it is now in the watch list. We're well on our way to getting removed from that watch list. If, like Hungary, we can shut down our version of Hungary's Versailles street market. So if we can shut down our Quiapo, our 168, our Green Hills, then definitely we'll be removed from that watch list. Other countries that are removed from the watch list include Poland, where Pope John Paul II originated. Poland is removed from the Special 301 watch list due to its significant reduction in the availability of pirated and counterfeit goods at border markets, meaning it is harder, if not unavailable, to access these pirated and counterfeit goods at the borders of Poland. Increased and improved enforcement efforts of Polish authorities and the strong cooperation between rights holders and enforcement or police officials were also noted by the U.S. Trade Representative. The government of Poland has also taken initial steps to address internet piracy concerns, and the United States will continue to monitor Poland's progress to ensure that intellectual property rights protection and enforcement are ongoing. Another positive development is the government of Sweden's performance. As we all know, that is where the BitTorrent site originated from. It is very notorious for that, and Sweden has implemented several measures to improve its intellectual property rights protection. As a result of such efforts, many of the BitTorrent tracker websites and DC hubs or peer-to-peer protocols, which allow users to either download files from websites or download files from a central hub with infringing material, meaning these hubs and websites have been previously operating out of Sweden but have now moved on elsewhere. In their place, legal alternatives such as Spotify, Film to Home, and Vodler, so there are legal alternatives to BitTorrent, have generated growing interest. Ayan. So that has been a very significant improvement on the part of the Swedish government. Sweden's implementation of the EU's enforcement directive has increased public awareness of IPR protection. Now, for the part of the European Union, it ratified the World Intellectual Property Organization's Copyright Treaty and the Performances and Phonograms Treaty. Both these treaties are known as WIPO Internet Treaties, and this has marked a significant step forward for international norms of IPR protection, particularly with regard to internet-based delivery of copyrighted works. Well, the internet is really a parallel universe, and our laws have to catch up on regulating crimes committed over the internet, including its being a tool for trade in pirated and counterfeited goods. With the EU's ratification of the WIPO Internet Treaties, there are now 88 member countries of the WIPO Copyright Treaties and 86 members of the WIPO Phonograms Treaty. These treaties have raised the standard of IPR protection around the world, particularly with regard to internet-based delivery of copyrighted works. And this positive progress have been commended by the trading partners of Sweden, Poland and Hungary, and the United States will continue to work with these countries to achieve further improvement. Now, when it comes to the Philippines, one other concern is the need to establish specialized RP courts. As we all know, the penalty for piracy is no longer than 6 years imprisonment. That's the maximum. And convictions have been scarce in the sense that there may have been 1 or 2 convictions in the past 6 years, but not deterrent enough to stop piracy or deter people from trading in pirated and counterfeit goods. So more on this when we return right here on DZRJ 810 AM.
We now return to Piracy Watch on DZRJ 810 AM, the voice of the Philippines. Here's your host, Sarah Jane Sugitan.
Welcome back on the Piracy Watch, which is a public service brought to you by DZRJ, the voice of the Philippines. And speaking of its partner, the Philippine Star brought to us a special section on World Intellectual Property Day last Tuesday, April 26th, which is the 11th World IP Day. So thank you to the Philippine Star for bringing this special section to many people, the creative Filipino people who have yet to be aware of how to protect your rights, particularly intellectual property rights. If you are an artist, a brand owner, or an inventor, please be aware and protect your rights by registering them with the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines. The Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines is located at number 351 Hill Puyat Avenue in Makati City. We have 10 satellite offices all over the nation. And if you need assistance, just approach any DTI office. Since the IPO is an attached agency of the DTI. Starting May 16, 2011, IPOPhil's new address is the ground floor of the World Finance Plaza building on number 28 Upper McKinley Road, McKinley Hill Town Center in Fort Bonifacio, Taguig City. IPOPhil's trunk line remains 238-6300. For those of you who are on Facebook, please check out DZRJ's Facebook page. It's facebook.com/DZRJ810AM. Also, we have a simultaneous live, web stream on www.ustream.tv/channel/DZRJ-810-AM. Of course, I'd like to acknowledge Attorney Ricardo R. Blanca Flor, Director General of the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines. Happy birthday today, and we'd like to thank our partners in the IPO, including the World Intellectual Property Organization and David Salon, the best in European hairdressing. We are still discussing the report of the U.S. Trade Representative on the Philippine performance in terms of piracy and intellectual property rights protection. And as I've said earlier, the U.S. is very aggressive about enforcing intellectual property rights because a major part of its economy relies on its intellectual property rights generators. We're talking artists, we're talking Hollywood, we're talking book authors, that series that you buy on pirated DVD, movies, books, etc. So same here. So our film industry, our music industry, our creative industries, including our brand owners, our inventors, our techies, have rights to protect, register them now with the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines. It's the only way to safeguard your rights over a potential gold mine. Now, why has counterfeiting been a priority for many countries? As we know, counterfeiting has evolved in recent years from a localized industry concentrated on copying designer goods and optical discs into a sophisticated global business involving mass production and sale of a vast array of fake goods, including items such as counterfeit medicines, healthcare products, food, beverages, automobiles, and airplane parts. Yes, there are fake cars now. Toothpaste, shampoos, fake razors, electronics, batteries, chemicals, and sporting goods. So anything and everything can be counterfeited and faked. So if you choose to buy fake, pirated, counterfeit goods, it will affect not only the profits of the legitimate producers, but your life and your safety. These are put at risk when you purchase fake goods. Counterfeiting also damages the economies of the countries in which it occurs by decreasing tax revenue and deterring investment. Counterfeiters and pirates generally pay no taxes or duties, and they often disregard basic standards for worker health and safety, product quality, performance, and all these safeguards put in place by legitimate producers. Yeah, and as we said earlier, there have been 3 countries that have been removed from these watches, and we can greatly learn from their examples. They have closed down their version of Arquiapo and 168 and Green Hills. They have succeeded in closing them down. There is no reason why we cannot do it here. They have also policed their borders, meaning it is very difficult, if not unavailable, for them to access pirated goods at this point in time due to cooperation between the rights holders and the enforcement officials. Of course, one of the strategies of the IPO is to seek police powers, since this is part of the holistic approach, meaning the IPO will no longer just be a registration office for your intellectual property. It will also be there and be enabled to protect your intellectual property in times of need, meaning when you reach that point when you are so popular that you are being copied in the local markets. So those have been the strides taken by the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines. For those of you who have brands who are not yet registered, it is not enough that you get the necessary business permit, operating permits, and whatnot. You need to go to the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines and register your trademarks, because otherwise, no registration, then you don't own your brand. The only way to own your brand is to register it with the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines. Check out the website of IPO. It's www.ipophil.gov.ph. And again, the new office of the IPO starting May 16 will be in McKinley Road, number 28, Upper McKinley Road in McKinley Hill Town Center, Fort Bonifacio, Taguig City. Again, those have been the problematic areas of our country in terms of intellectual property rights enforcement. We're talking laws, we're talking enforcement power, we're talking about awareness, and of course, please don't buy pirated and fake goods. Support our local industries, the original ones that really put a lot of time and effort in building up their creative works, be it a brand, a song, a book, PowerPoint presentation, gadget, what have you. And instead of taking the shortcut and paying cheaper for pirated goods, which of course endanger your life and kill, if not sink, industries, please sponsor Buy Original. Okay, so this has been Attorney Sarah Sugitan for Piracy Watch. Join us again next Tuesday right here on DZRJ, the voice of the Philippines.
You have been listening to Piracy Watch with Attorney Sarah Jane Sugitan. Piracy Watch, an exclusive presentation of DZRJ, 810 AM, the voice of the Philippines.